Steve, thanks for joining. So you guys have some big news. You guys are now in a formal relationship with Cobra Golf. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about that relationship and kind of how it came about with Bryson as a catalyst for that?
Yeah, Bryson was really what brought us together. It was Shinnecock U.S. Open a couple years ago. He introduced us to Jose Mirafor there, and we sat down at dinner and just started talking shop and kept in touch. And they followed the progress really of what Bryson was doing along with other players, and that's really what brought us together. So,
And ultimately, what's the nature of that relationship going to look like? Obviously, you're going to work together on some product, and they're going to use some of Six technology as well from putting, and then on 3D printing as well, which is kind of quickly becoming a frontier, particularly for you guys and Cobra. What's the breadth of this is going to look like maybe a year from now, maybe 3 years from now?
yeah, our partnership really, the SICK Golf's involvement is the Descending Loft Technology, the face. So the 3D printing is really that's going to be unique to Cobra. We will still continue to mill putters out of at SICK Golf out of stainless steel, really 100% CNC. So the relationship with Cobra is really um, Descending Loft Technology, aluminum faces, a little bit softer feel, and yeah, just providing that to a different group of players.
Ultimately, does that mean being able to use Descending Loft for Cobra? Do you hope that means more people will also take a look at Sick Golf specifically for the putters that you guys are making?
Yeah, I think 3D printed putters and inserts. It's we will keep, even though we're a partnership, we'll do things differently. So little different aspects of the way it is that we're going about putter design. But the reality of it is, you put Descending Loft Technology on the face of any putter, and it'll help the player.
But this has to feel like a validation of what you guys as a brand and as a company have worked on for so many years.
Yeah, absolutely. To have somebody, like Cobra, to be interested in it, and then to make an agreement and put it on it, and to see what the response that they've had already, similar to ours, it's really exciting for us. Yeah, ultimate validation.
What have the last 12 to 18 months of Bryson DeChambeau's meteoric rise meant to Sick Golf?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely put us on the map. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
We're now 12 wins worldwide. Bryson is a big part of it. We've also had, not to discount Lonto Griffin winning with it, and Brendan Todd. What an amazing story! Back-to-back wins, almost three.
Almost three, yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun to watch, and to see our putter in action. Watching that, it's been an amazing journey.
For folks who are maybe not familiar watching this, can you explain Descending Loft Technology to them briefly so they get an understanding of how it would benefit them?
Yeah, so basically, you got to ask and answer what the problem is first. And so we identified, using the technology that we use, a player's inability to return the shaft from address back to impact with much consistency. The average touring player can't even do it 20% of the time. So we have four planar surfaces, or four flat surfaces on the face of the putter with different lofts. And what it does is, if you have a slight forward press, typically hit it higher on the face and de-loft the putter. And so we have more loft at the top to add the loft back for you. Vice versa, if you're adding loft to it with your hands, maybe a little bit of wrist action, flipping it lower on the face, adding loft to it, we have less at the bottom, because we want to give you a consistent launch angle. So if you can match that launch angle, then your distance control is going to be easier and better. Whereas with a traditional putter, just a flat face, that loft change is typically 1-to-1 in launch. So we have a little bit of a crutch, if you will.
And does the way that the golfer comes through at impact with their angle of attack, how much does that impact how much skid comes out off the face versus it more rolling true quicker?
Yeah, I mean, that's a different animal that goes into a little bit of coaching. Start out with ball position with the player, but yeah, angle of attack, for a putt, you want neutral or ascending. You don't typically want to see a descending angle of attack. So
So ultimately, we're trying to get it close to zero.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so a player that can't do it, and if somebody wants to forward press, I mean, we adjust the loft at the hosel, so you still get the same face, just in a different position.
And for golfers who obviously there's kind of these two camps of strokes, and there's beyond that, but the two main camps of strokes being kind of more arch stroke versus more front to back. Is there a
Mhm.
tendency of one or the other to be a little bit more accurate in terms of loft, even though that's, like you said, a touring pro maybe doing 1 out of 5 times?
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the player as each as an individual. I mean, and the physics behind it is, yeah, if you had zero rotation, then you would land back on zero every time. So, logically, you would think that the less rotation, the more consistent you would be with delivery. Now, there are people that are out there that have higher rate of rotation in degrees per second, and they can match it. And so we look for a range, really, just preference on how it is you prefer to putt. But somebody like Bryson, to give you an example, is he's in the teens in his toe rotation in degrees per second. So he can get it back to zero a lot using the arm lock technique. And then somebody like Brendan Todd with a little bit more toe hang, he's going to be, in the 35 to 40 range, but very consistent.
How much is the emergence of being able to do things like Sam Putt Lab and that type of fitting been helpful for Sick Golf to put numbers in front of people's faces to explain what's going on?
Yeah, really, it's the Quintic system. Is they look at the ball first, as opposed to Sam and some of the others, where they're looking at what's going on at the club, and then they calculate what happens, to the ball. So we really wanted to work from the ball back, see what it was doing before we got to the putter. We have, I cannot stand there behind you with my arms crossed and watch you putt and know what it is that the ball is doing. It's just, I don't think anybody in the world could. Um, but also, there's not, speaking of that, there's other things that are just, we partnered recently with the company Proof Putting that is going to be able to offer some of these things to a player on their cell phone on an app that you can take right to the course with you to look at those numbers. And it's something that, until now, people just, unless you go through a fitting and find one of those locations that has a system like that, you just would never be able to see it.
Yeah,
So,
the kind of decentralization of that, taking it maybe out of the hands of having to be at a fitter to do it, and
mm.
that's to be a potentially tremendous asset for you guys because you can again prove it on the go.
Yeah, it's more for education. We still encourage people to go to fitters. We have a great
Sure.
relationship with Club Champion right now. We have our component bag in every one of their locations. Also, a couple of flagship fitting locations with PGA Superstore, and going to those places and working with a professional that can fit you properly is really important. And then this other aspect to it, with going and taking that type of system out to the green with you and validating it and practicing it and looking at your ball speeds and launch angles, which people, don't talk about when it comes to putting, but they're all about launch monitors, for your combines, for chipping and wedging and all these things. But reality is you use your putter more than any other club in the bag, right, and around.
Right?
So it helps to know those things.
And there's got to be an issue of consistency from stroke to stroke, whether you're hitting a 10-foot putt versus a 30-foot putt, uphill, downhill. I mean, that those are things that you probably cannot account for, frankly, in a putter fitting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so to be able to take it out to the course and look at those things, and even keep in contact with your fitter, if they set you to a specific launch in your fitting, and then you go out to your golf course and you're recording, and you may notice that the stimps aren't what it is that they should be typically, so you can actually adjust the putter.
Over time, as particularly with Brysons Rise, have you guys found that maybe a particular type of golfer is attracted to sick golf, or that maybe more golfers are kind of realizing, hey, the science of putting is actually a science. It's not an art form, and
Mhm.
should be more interested in this data.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce has just really validated it for us. So you do get a lot of, I mean, obviously he's one of the most talked about golfers in the game, right? He's changing things from full swing to putting. So yeah, a lot of people thought that we were an arm lock company to begin with. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, looking at guys, like I said, like Brendan Todd Lonto, now Charles Swartz will just put it in. Tim Wilkinson's using it. So it's yeah, it's really coming along.
And this thing seems to kind of have a way of snowballing on tour. That if
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
it's a
Paying
game where
attention.
you see someone else have success, all of a sudden you think maybe that's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the scientific is, I mean, we just can't argue with physics. So being able to put it, on a system and microscopic level and blow it up and get the data off of it to be able to prove what it is we're doing is really important.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. We really appreciate the education and congrats on all the success.
Thanks for having me, Ron. I really appreciate it.